Ditka, who is president of International Council of Archive as well as director of National Archive of Australia.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, Mr. Neil Agrawal, South Asian Archive, Open Archive.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hey, nice to meet you.
And we have with us Professor Gauri Maulikar. She's a professor and dean in Chinmaya Vidyapeeth in Kerala. And our member secretary, Dr. Sachidana Joshi, who has already joined but facing some difficulty in video. So we'll soon start. I'll just check it and we'll start.
Carl, where are you based out of?
I am just north of San Francisco in a little town called Healdsburg.
Oh, great. I'm in Los Angeles.
Ah, okay. So you have the same time of day issue that I have.
3:30 a.m.
Oh my goodness.
Right now for us. It's great though. I'm glad to be here.
Hello, Dr. God, namaste. I'm really sorry. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Namaskar. Namaskar, sir.
So I'm really sorry because of this technical issues. I have to now switch to this laptop.
No, sir,
I
it's
hope
looking
now-
perfect. That's perfect now. So, Dr. Sachidana Joshi is our member secretary, executive head of Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts. So, sir, all speakers have joined.
Yes, yes. No,
Shall we start?
Yeah.
Can you check the recording and Facebook Live?
Yes, sir, everything is ready, so you can start now.
Namaskar. Good afternoon to all of you. Myself, Professor Ramesh Chandra Gaur, Dean Academics and Head Kalanidhi Division, Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts, which is a body of Ministry of Culture, Government of India. IGNCA is a autonomous body which is working in the field of art and culture, a premier research institute, which is responsible for preservation, digitization, and dissemination of Indian cultural heritage since 1987. We have several programs. We have resource center, the Kalanidhi division, which is basically a cultural resource center, which is having a print reference library, which is having a microfilm unit, a digitization unit for microfilming and digitization of manuscripts. We also have a cultured archive, which purchased more than 45 personal collection of eminent scholars like photographers like Raja Deen Dayal, art historian like A.K. Kumaraswamy, then several national and international collections, paintings from Elizabeth Brunner, so and so. We have more than 100,000 visuals on different aspects of Indian culture, tradition, and monuments. And we have several programs for dissemination of Indian cultural heritage through seminars, webinars, and exhibitions, fairs, and festivals. IGNCA is also a nodal agency for UNESCO Memory of the World program. And now, very recently, I have been also nominated as a member of UNESCO Global Task Force for celebrating Decade of Indigenous Language. So with several important portfolios, IGNCA is very active in the field of art and culture. And keeping its objective in mind, we are celebrating this International Archives Week, which is being celebrated all over the world from June 7 to June 11, which from 2009, when the first International Archives Day was celebrated on June 9. So let me congratulate you on this occasion of International Archives Day. It is a proud moment for all archivists, librarians, scholars, and academic community, because We have with us on this occasion none other than President of International Council of Archive, Mr. David Fricker, who is also a very eminent personality in the field of documentary heritage as a director,
अरे मेरे को भी सुनना है ना,
as a director
तुम्हारी
of
आवाज बहुत ऊंची है.
जसवीर इनको म्यूट करियो या as a director of National Archive of Australia and also in UNESCO Memory of the World program, he plays significant role, and we are blessed today that he has agreed to deliver the keynote address. So, and we have very eminent speaker. I will just introduce each and everybody in few moments. So the purpose of celebrating this International Archive Week is to create an awareness amongst the scholars, the archivists, the policy maker about the importance of archives, and also to create an awareness how digital technology is enhancing the experiences of these archives. So in this context, from 7 to 11, every day we have program. We started our program first day on June 7 with the webinar on digital heritage experiences in libraries, archives, museums, monuments, and various kind of other galleries, etc. And then yesterday we have discussion on need of a good archival science education. And today we are having this international webinar on open access to cultural heritage. Tomorrow we are going to showcase the various works done by the IGNCA under the leadership of our dynamic member, Dr. Sachidanand Joshi, that how IGNCA is creating different digital repositories, collecting various kind of materials, and also playing a significant role in the preservation and access to documentary heritage. On last day of the event, we have a discussion on role of libraries and archives in the preservation of indigenous languages, like the language documentation and digital archiving play a very important role in this direction. So these are the few introductory words about this particular program. And let me just have an honor of introducing all our speakers today. We have with us as a chief guest, Professor Gauri Maholikar. She is a Dean and Professor, School of Vedic Knowledge System, Chirmaya Vishwavidyalaya, Kerala. So welcome you, madam, and thank you for your kind presence. We have with us Mr. David Fricker. I just introduced you to him. Thank you, David, for your kind, gracious presence in this program and delivering keynote address. Welcome you to the program. We have with us our member secretary, Dr. Sachidanand Joshi. He is a very eminent academician and also a good administrator and a great supporter of academic programs in preservation of Indian cultural heritage. And as a guest speaker, we have very active and eminent names. Mr. Karl Malamud, who belongs to Public Resource Organization, and he's very active in India with different activities and program. And thank you, Karl, for your kind presence in today's program. We have with us Mr. Neil Agrawal, who is very actively associated with South Asian Open Archive. And we want to know more about this archive because IGNCA is having various programs on South Asian studies. So thanks, Neil, and welcome to the program. In the beginning of the program, we just want to start with a important initiative, open access initiative from IGNCA. As you know, IGNCA is a nodal center for preservation of Indian ancient manuscripts. Under the program for microfilming of manuscripts from 1989 to 2009, we have microfilmed over 300,000 manuscripts from 52 manuscript libraries in India. Now we have digitized those manuscripts and online catalog is also created. Now, many of these manuscripts are in the scripts like Brahmi, Prakriti, Pali, which are not very much known to the various people. So these 300,000 manuscripts are on different aspects, but many times people want that a subject-wise catalog should be created. So in this direction, 3 years before, we started a program for creation of descriptive catalog of these manuscripts on subject specific areas. And in this direction, we bring out initially 4 volume in print, but now this pandemic has given us a lot of lessons. And we also realize that it is important that these manuscript catalog should be available under open access catalog online to everyone. Keeping that in mind, we created now next 13 volumes we have finalized, and these all 13 volumes will be in the electronic e-publication, e-book format. So in this direction, today I feel proud in the presence of our member secretary, in the presence of all of you, to launch those 5 electronic books of this descriptive called catalog under open access. And I show you a small inaugural video of this launch program. So just give me 1 minute to share that particular video. So thank you. Just for information for our foreign speakers, these volumes initially we bring out 4 parts on Vedas, and then we have 2 parts on Vedanta, and we have now some another 5 parts on Upanishada and other Vedic heritage systems. So now all these 9 volumes, we have also digitized those earlier 4 volumes, and all 9 volumes will be put under open access for wider dissemination of the worldwide research communities all over the world. Thank you. And another 8 volumes will be launched soon. These are also in the process. So with these this launch, now we move to our program ahead, and we would like to begin our program. Sir, on this launch, we would like to assure you that all the remaining volumes will also be launched very soon. And now we'll proceed further with the program. I would like to invite our chief guest to deliver her inaugural address. So now I invite Professor Gauri Maulikar. Please deliver your inaugural address.
Hari Om, thank you so much. First of all, congratulations, hearty congratulations on the release of these 9 volumes, having an enormous treasure of knowledge, and which is open to all the world now. It's really my pleasure and honor to inaugurate this international webinar on open access to cultural heritage and online launch of the 5 e-volumes of the descriptive catalog of manuscripts at Kalanidhi division, and especially this 9th June, which is regarded as the International Archive Day. I am really very thankful personally to Dr. Ramesh Ji, the Dean and Head of Kalanidhi, for inviting me here. One very exciting feature for me was one of the editors of these catalogs was Kirtikant Sharma Ji, who was invited by me for the Sharda manuscript while I was in Mumbai University. So I have very fond memories of Kirtikant Ji. So with this, congratulations to everybody who is involved in this enormous task. And now, because I have also done a little bit, not much, a little contribution, a squirrel's contribution, you can say, in the area of manuscripts or rock inscription or copper plates. So I would like to, talk something spatially about one copper plate. Before that, I would feel that, having these inscriptions, manuscripts, etc., though maybe on palm leaf or birch bark, etc., they are treasure of any nation. And they bring a contribution, significant contribution to the cultural development, and also inculcate a strong feeling of pride for the enormity of knowledge which our ancestors have created, So this is really very, very mind-boggling to say that, oh, what what type of content they have created for us. So now with that, let me go to this, let me talk about this Kanakaditya's copper plate. This is found in Kasheli, a very small village in Ratnagiri district in Maharashtra. And years ago, I was there for some lectures, and on the behest of the organizers, I just visited that small town. I never had heard of it. And there is a sun temple. And about the sun worship and all, I had done some studies. So I was very curious to see that. And when I went there, I found that this is a copper plate of Shilahara King Bhoja II of the Shilahara dynasty. And this is a Danapatra. Danapatra, this is a donation grant, and that is to feed 12 Brahmins from that village. Now this Kasheli village is near Attavira. In the copper plate, the name is given as Attavira, that is Adivarai in modern days. And there we have a very famous Devi temple, Yogeshwari Devi. And King Bhoja, he was then not at Attavira, he was in Padmanala Durga. Padmanala Durga is the Fort Panhala near Kolhapur, and when he gave this donation, okay. And this was done in 1191, the Gregorian calendar, 1113 Shaka, in the Shaka. And the name is given, the Samvatsara, Virodhi Krit Samvatsara is given, and the date, the Tithi is mentioned as Ashadha Shuddha Chaturthi. It was a Thursday in Dakshinayana. So all these details are mentioned. And this is openly available in the Bharatiya Itihas Samshodhan Mandal periodicals, and called as Prachin Marathi Koriv Lake. That is ancient Marathi inscriptions. So in this we have this the information about this, and this was Govinda Bhatt Bhagavat. The name is also mentioned there. And even now it is very surprising to see that the lineage continues. The Bhagavat family still are there as the priests of this Surya Mandira, the sun temple, which is called Kanakaditya. Of course, there are many stories behind this Kanakaditya. Basically, this copper plate has 3 plates, and they are tied together with a copper ring. And on the ring, there is the Garuda Mudra. There is a embossing of Garuda, eagle, because which was the royal emblem of the Shilahara kings. And this is a very interesting thing, interesting copper plate. And they had this, written like a document in the printed form. And I was instrumental in correcting that and maybe reconstructing some of the text which was missing. And therefore, I was, like little bit instrumental in having it open to the public in some way or the other. And the writing style also, it has mainly been influenced by the Modi script, which was very prevalent in the 10th to almost 16th, 18th century. Till 18th century, we were having Modi in Maharashtra. And there are beautiful panegyrics of this king and all that. So that was one part. And interestingly, whatever the boundary of this Attavira or Kasheli is given, and these boundaries which are transcribed, which are inscribed rather, okay, which are etched on this copper plate. Purvasyam Dishi, there is a river on the eastern direction called Kurala. On the southern direction, there is a dry stream, and then to the western side, Saritpatihi, that is the ocean, and to the north, there is again a Kshudra Srotaha, a very petty stream called Kekhandika. And so these are the like east, west, north, south, some geographical territory has been given the boundaries, and even now it can be tallied. So that is the most interesting part of that. And as I told you, the lineage still continues, and now they have the name called Savre because there is Savre Wadi, a small locality called Savre Wadi. Savre is basically, the Savri Chizhada. So that is the silk cotton tree. It abounds in the silk cotton tree, and the Bhagavats are known as Savre now. And I had a privilege to meet one Mr. Prakash Savre from that lineage. And I got so many things from him. So whenever we talk about, or whenever we study, and do research on some of these ancient manuscript, be it a manuscript, be it a copper plate or inscription or anything, we have to have into consideration or take into account the oral history, because that is quite helpful, I feel. And this was tallied to a great extent with the oral history. Similarly, there is a very interesting rock inscription in a small village called Abigeri. I am born in that village. It's a small village in Gadag, in the Harwad district in Karnataka. And just besides my ancestral house, this oval-shaped stone was lying. And nobody noticed it. And then one day, when I was there after many years, I noticed that. And interestingly, that can also be tallied with the king called Veera Pratapa, and again the story, the things, etc. So history, the basic history which you study in books, these could be supplemented and endorsed by such evidences, and which are like cultural, what you can say, benefit for us and cultural development, and we should feel proud of that. So with this, I think I'll just tell you one more thing. In Maharashtra, because I grew up in Maharashtra, in Nasik, one of the middle-aged medieval saint called Samartha Ramdas Swami, he was in Nashik near Takli, near Nashik, a village called Takli. And when he was 14 years of age, he had scribed the entire Ramayana. It is written as Ramena Ramadasena Likhitam Ramayanam. But interestingly, fortunately or unfortunately, the Ramayana which is written by him, it is still there in Dhule Vagdevata Mandir. Dhule, one of the places in central Maharashtra, it is still there, okay? And that Ramayana can't be tallied with either the Gita Press Gorakhpur Ramayana or the critical edition of Ramayana published from Baroda. So which Ramayana this 14-year-old boy had in front of him, from which he copied? Unknown. It's not known to us. And recently, the organizers of that Samartha Vagdevata Mandir have published almost 3 volumes, the Balakanda, Ayodhya Kanda and Sundara Kanda. And I was fortunate in contributing to that, because I translated the Sundara Kanda written by Ramdas Swami. And what beautiful handwriting he has, evenly, dark, black color. He himself describes how handwriting should be of a scribe. In Dasabodha, there is a Lekhana Samasa, how the handwriting should be. And his handwriting, I tell you, matches 100% to the theory which he proposed. So there are so many wonderful things, so working on manuscript is a joy forever. I can still cherish those beautiful memories. So with this, I think I'll close my speech, because we are eager to listen to the great stalwarts here who have spent their lives in manuscript studies. So again, thank you for inviting me on this very auspicious and very remarkable occasion. Thank you so much. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you, Professor Gauri, for very interesting or very important anecdotes. And you talked about Modi's script. I think we have very close connection with working on this script, because I remember the former minister who was there in the previous tenure of Modi ji, and he came to know about this, and he told us that there are a number of land records which are in Modi script, but the Modi script that time were using different script.
Modi script was mainly used by for the royal grants, and especially for the land surveys and all. Even now, the land surveys are written in Modi.
Yeah, and those now it has changed the script to Devanagari. So many people who know Modi this Marathi currently, they cannot understand that time of the Marathi because the script was different. So
because
that's
it doesn't have Shirorekha. It's like Gujarati in writing. It doesn't have Shirorekha like Marathi has.
So that's why the manuscripts are very important, and we need to preserve. And that is the IGNCA is trying to preserve both contents as well as language. And we have the postgraduate diploma course in manuscriptology and paleography, and we are teaching these 6 scripts. And Dr. Kirtikan Sharma is one of the finest scholar, and he is our the teacher or researcher. He was instrumental in these catalogs, and also he's teaching these scripts with the help of other faculty members at IGNCA. So thank you very much for your wonderful address and your blessings. Now we'll move ahead with our program, and now it's time to invite keynote speaker of our today's program, Mr. David Tricker, who is I already introduced. He's the president of International Council of Archives, and a great academician, researcher, and a person who loves to work for the promotion, preservation, and dissemination of archival heritage. So over to you, David, for your keynote.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ramesh Gawa. It is a great pleasure for me to be here. And first, can I acknowledge you, Dr. Gawa, as Dean of and Head of the Kala Nidhi Division for the Indira Gandhi National Centre for the Arts, and of course my colleague as a fellow member of the UNESCO International Advisory Committee, which gives UNESCO advice and guidance and leadership, especially for the management of the Memory of the World program, but really as a principal advisor on UNESCO's policies for documentary heritage in general, for the archives and libraries fields. It's been a great pleasure seeing you at work, Ramesh. It's wonderful experience for me. I've already learned a great deal from you and the way that you are such a passionate advocate for the projects that you run and the way indeed that you run your institution. It really is quite inspirational. At every one of our meetings, we're constantly impressed with the news that you bring of all of these wonderful initiatives. And can I say, particularly, of course, the rich cultural treasures that you are bringing to all people to enjoy, but your application of technology, I think it's shown great leadership in the proper, effective use of digital technology to expand the reach and the impact of cultural material.
Thank you, David.
And can I also say, Professor Gauri Mahulikad, that was such an inspirational talk you just gave us as well. I was quite dazzled by your anecdote and your story of discovery and just your passion and your appreciation of that material. You must give a lot of students and a lot of people a great deal of energy and enthusiasm to discover more about our cultural heritage. So thank you for that talk. Also, Dr. Gao, you mentioned Indigenous language. Can I also, as an Australian custom, to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples who are the traditional owners of the land upon which my city of Canberra was built, the Ngambri and the Ngunnawal people, and in their Indigenous language, say Naji and Jamali, Ngambri, Ngunnawal, Wujigang, Yanyibu, Jandu. And that is simply an acknowledgement of those traditional owners, and in the Indigenous language, I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. And finally, I feel that I should commence our international addresses. Of course, the world is gripped by the COVID pandemic. And I just want to extend my very best wishes. I know that so many people have been affected by this terrible pandemic. And so my sympathies for all of those who have been adversely affected by it, and my wishes for good health and good recovery. And I hope the world can recover from this pandemic very, very soon. So I thought I might talk a bit about the ICA, about the International Council on Archives. As Dr. Ramesh has said in the opening, it was founded in 1948, so it had a reasonable history as an organization under the auspices of UNESCO. And it seems proper on occasion such as this, which includes the official launch of the volumes, the e-volumes, the descriptive catalogue, that I might talk about some of the aims and the functions and the way in which the ICA works, and how it might help engender more collaboration and more cooperation across the international community. Now, the ICA, of course, is founded on the belief that archives and records of humanity represent the primary source material. They represent witnesses to past events. They are memory and they are evidence. And the preservation of archives and records and the free open access to those records and archives represents humanity's collective memory. And it is a way in which humanity can transmit memory from one generation to the next. And of course, within the libraries of the world, we have the published material, the accumulated knowledge, also generated from one generation to another. But with archives, with the primary source evidentiary value of records, what we have is the opportunity for us all to re-witness, to make fresh observations of the past, so that every generation can have the opportunity to see for itself and appreciate for itself its own history, who we are as individuals, who we are as communities, and what is our collective identity. And of course, based on that, we can face the future with more obligation, with more responsibility, and I hope, with more optimism. And so within the archives, to really promote those fundamental values of archives and records of the past, we really have 4 key aims. They are to advocate, professionalize, connect, and promote. So if I might just speak to each of those in turn. Firstly, advocacy. If the ICA can advocate for the value and promote the value of archives, what we might be able to do is to assist those countries who are less resourced than others, who perhaps don't have a national government or a national community that fully understands and appreciates the value of the archives. And therefore, the archival institutions are not themselves able to attract the support or the resources that they need to do their work and to promote the treasures contained within archival collections. And so the advocacy is a very important role for the ICA. We advocate the value of archives as underpinning accountability and transparency and integrity of public administration. So good governance in our lives comes from a universal right of access to the records held in archival institutions. We also protect rights and entitlements. The rights and entitlements of people around the world are really only gained when evidence can be produced. It is usually documentary heritage, documentary evidence that is brought forward to demonstrate people's entitlement to their nationhood, to their lands, their properties, to their inheritance, their cultural heritage, as well as their material inheritance. And so rights and entitlements are very important. As we're seeing around the world with global movements around Black Lives Matter, around the Me Too movement, the Occupy movement, and so it goes, human rights are becoming more and more important to people all over the world. And that's why archives and archival resources are so vitally necessary to promote that. And then finally, of course, very relevant to today's session, archives represent the memory and the evidence of our past. They represent who we are, what is our heritage, the value of ourselves, the value of our communities, and our ancestry. And so I think as a cultural heritage is that a fundamental part of documentary heritage, the value of archives must be recognized and advocated for. So advocacy is a very important role for us. We do that through the production of position papers on certain events. If, for example, there's been a major devastation or loss with archival material through natural disasters, severe weather events, for example, recently hurricanes in the Caribbean have caused devastation and loss to cultural material. So we produce statements on this. We recall that terrible fire of in the Museum of Brazil and how that museum was lost almost overnight in a blaze. So these are times when we should step up and remind humanity about the value of cultural heritage. The other thing we do is professionalize. And here what we are talking about is making sure that we are, as a profession around the world, sharing knowledge, expertise, giving ourselves space to meet, to share knowledge and expertise, to learn from one another, to give each other our own knowledge and experience, and build a stronger professional community around the world with a greater feeling of solidarity amongst us all. Now, this is very important, both in terms for maintaining the current levels of skills and professionalism, may I say, which is so exhibited so very preeminently by the Indira Gandhi National Centre for the Arts. I mean, I've visited your website and I can see the work that you do and the achievements that you've made. And I think as an exemplar of what professionalism looks like, I think you have it. I think you really do have it. You have the gold standard. But that's sadly not the case in every corner of the world. And so we need to bring some of those less resourced nations up to speed, to give them the opportunity to learn and perfect their professional skills. And the other thing which I think is very important is that we always must look to the future. We always must look to the next generation of professionals. And so the ICA runs a very successful program called the New Professionals Program, where we provide scholarships and bursaries and assistance to gather a group of new professionals of varying ages. Mostly are quite young, but some others are more mature, but they're coming into the profession, and give them the opportunity to accelerate their exposure to world's best thinking, knowledge, and also to make sure that we are embracing new ways of working, facing the new challenges ahead. And of course, the big challenge for us all is digital technology. So as we confront, and we're still at the very beginning of the digital age, you know, the information revolution has still only barely begun. We're probably in the first or second decade, really. And so the ICA is very concerned with developing the next generation of professionals with not only traditional understandings of the value of documentary heritage, the basic principles of respect des fonds, of context and order, of maintaining records as authentic, reliable evidence of the past. These are traditional values, but also overlaying that with new technology. So how are we building the digital competency, the information awareness, the knowledge of the next generation of professionals to apply those modern and emerging technologies as archival tools for the preservation and the access to the digital archival heritage of the future. So very, very important there. Our other objective is to connect. And here what we want to do is to ensure that we are doing everything we can to connect people with archives, with archival collections. So what are we doing about ensuring that not only are we promoting the value of archives, but we are working and talking to each other about building the professionalism of our community, the solidarity of our community. But let's also look outside the community. let's look at the citizens, the individuals, the people of all communities and all nations, and make sure that we are working as hard as we can to enable each one of them to connect with their documentary heritage, to enrich the lives of all of humanity through the exploitation of cultural heritage, to provide access. And here again, to be talking today at this event around open access, around producing more material in digital forms, because the provision of digital access to collections is a wonderful way to democratize collections. So people are no longer inhibited because they can't afford to travel to see an original record in its original place, in its original form, or perhaps they don't have the economic means or even the education to fully appreciate that. Or perhaps the school that the children are going to, the school cannot afford to mount a major display or exhibition or develop a curriculum to explore a particular aspect of our history. By digitizing our collections, by making those collections freely available over the internet through smart devices, on phones, on computers, on tablets, we are connecting everybody with our archival collections. So this is very, very important, and it's very much within the theme of today's event in terms of open access to cultural heritage. And finally, the last objective is around the promotion of the material. And here I think it's very important in a world of the 21st century, when there is so much information available to us all, with a click of a button, with a touch of the screen on our phone, we can obtain the latest news, the weather reports, some gossip, some Twitter, some Facebook, whatever it might be. There's no shortage of information that people can access today. But what concerns me is the level of misinformation and disinformation, which is already in the mix. So there is so much information available, but is it real information? Is it authentic? Can we rely on that information to inform the population to make better choices, either in a democracy or in a community or just in life choices? And the level of disinformation and misinformation is quite alarming. And I think in democracies around the world in particular, it's very hard for a democracy to be properly nourished with good information, for individuals to be fully informed when they go to the ballot box to cast their vote, if they're being fed with lies, with propaganda which is purposely designed to be for nefarious means, to pervert public opinion. So the way that information is being weaponized today is of great concern. So we must promote cultural heritage that can be relied upon, that people can draw the truth from, and through that they can be inspired to understand who they are, who their past, what their past is. And I think that gives us all pride in who we are, and it gives us courage to face the future. So again, centres such as the National Centre for the Arts, for example, and other memory institutions around the world have got a big part to play in promoting cultural heritage, documentary heritage, archives as authentic, reliable evidence of the past, not necessarily truth. I mean, a record might be a record of someone telling a lie, but it's evidence. And if we can promote the valid evidence of these things, then every generation can make a choice, make decisions based on real information, not disinformation. So I think these are very important programs for the ICA and very important priorities that we have. Which of course brings us to this week, International Archives Week. As Professor Ramesh, you've already reminded us, this is International Archives Week, International Archives Day today, and I in return congratulate you and all of our participants on International Archives Day. And this week, of course, we have a theme of empowering archives. And here we have a few themes that are running this week as part of the Empowering Archives theme. It goes to accountability and transparency. So we're promoting discussions across the world through the community on what we are doing with our collections, with our programs, to provide more accountability and transparency, in particular of public administration. Because I think the more that our public administrations, our governments and our local governments can be open and transparent and accountable, then the more engaged the communities will be, the more honest our administration will be, the less corruption that we will see creep in, and the more enfranchised and the more enriched will be all of the population. So this is an important theme that we're running. Another one is diversity and inclusivity. And here it goes back to my discussion earlier regarding human rights and the roles that archives plays in human rights. You know, it's just a fact today that a lot of the information, you know, publicized, circulated through the internet around the world, in all of that information, there are some groups which are overrepresented. I'm afraid groups like me, English speaking, middle class, you know, white skinned, there is too much information produced by that group. And there are too many other communities in the world which are being left behind. They're being underrepresented. They're being marginalized. And so the theme of inclusivity and diversity is where we do need to celebrate the fact that cultural heritage is for all people. Cultural heritage should empower everybody equally. And there should be no barriers in any of our institutions, no barriers in our programs, in our events, in the material that we publish, which leaves anybody out. We all of us have to work hard on making everything we do inclusive and to celebrate the diversity of our global population. The other theme this week is on collaboration and networking. And here again, you're doing it tonight. You know, this is such a good example of collaboration. Every day this week, you've been running webinars as part of International Archives Week, connecting the community. I see here now we have over 150 people that you've attracted to this event. This is collaboration. Your work that you do at your center, Professor Ramesh, is also a form of collaboration where cultural heritage is not being selfishly protected and preserved for a few. It's being digitized, it's being open. There are programs running, you know, the doors are open, and it's fostering activity and education and developing new opportunities and new insights for people of all walks of life. And this is what I think collaboration is all about. And networking, of course, to have events like this across International Archives Week where we can draw the community together, exchange ideas, is just invaluable to keep our community vibrant and to make sure that the work we are doing has relevance and value for the communities that we serve. Because all of us are in service to our communities, and we should never forget that. So really, this is, as I say, an honor for me to have the opportunity to be here this evening, here in Canberra, in Australia, where I am. I know it's very early in the morning in other parts of the world, and so I should draw to a conclusion and let our other speakers take the podium. But as I say, it is really a great honor for me to be associated with the Indira Gandhi National Centre for the Arts. I've been amazed by the collections you have. There are cultural archives, but you also are preserving dance, language, literature, art. It really is such a rich cultural collection being preserved for future generations, but also being put at the access. It's celebrating universal access to that collection. So thank you very much for allowing me to be here to celebrate open access and to be here for the launch of the e-volumes of Descriptive Catalogue and Manuscripts at the Kala Ninji Division. So thank you again, Professor Ramesh, for this great invitation to be here. And I'm looking forward to listening to the rest of the speakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David. Indeed, a great honor listening to you. And then you have given many important messages. And I fully agree with you that this cultural heritage belongs to the humanity. It doesn't comes under any boundaries or any restricted by any language. It should be accessible to all, and that's a basic objective of UNESCO Memory of the World program and various promotion drives by the ICA. And I'm so glad that this year various themes selected by ICA are very, very relevant, also in the context of sustainable development goal, where equitable access to information is very crucial. And I'm so happy to hear you all the various programs of collaboration or networking. And this is the basic purpose of all of us and IGNCA also, to reach out to the scholars. Like the manuscript what we have, these are in the scripts which are known to only few scholars. So if we have to keep those contents alive, we have to migrate it to the scholars who really understand, not just in India but across the world. And also use of technology to develop the OCRs and also various machine translation. So like as an estimate, India has near about 10 million manuscripts. Out of that, we have already cataloged 4.3 million. And these manuscripts are not just on rituals and tradition, it is on astronomy, it is on Vedic heritage, it is on mathematics, it is on alternative medical sciences like Ayurveda and Unani and Urani, and also on various traditional knowledge system, like even ancient architecture system. We are translating a manuscript which talks about eye diseases. It's about 200 eye diseases listed in that ancient manuscript. So I think the basic purpose of translation of these manuscripts is that maybe something for diseases these we are passing through pandemic. So may such disease may do exist in the ancient world also. And if we can find out some better treatment or some good alternative to the allopathic treatment. So I think that's the value of these archival holdings and records. And it is true that all over the world, my experience says that the policymakers, the planners need better education about these archives, because many of them have certain mindset that this internet has given, like Carl is here, and I'm sorry to say that internet is excellent resource, but it has also misguided people in a many ways, particularly policymakers. Now they believe everything is available on internet. What is the need of libraries and archives? I think one of the ministers given that statement somewhere in some place, and I was shocked. Like how can you say that? Because internet provide you access to what you put on internet. The internet it's not itself is not creating any resources, and most of these resources, which are like all these are in different medias. Like we have many manuscript on paper, on parts, on palm leaf, which has survived 700-800 years, but it cannot survive forever. So we have to migrate it from the palm leaf to digital for better access and digital preservation. So in that context, I think like a huge amount of heritage what India possesses, it's a big challenge. And now, if a recording of our Monday webinar will be available on YouTube channel. There's such a wonderful experience when our scholars showcases that how the monument Hampi has been created by having augmented reality and virtual reality. So
Yes.
many of the work shown by those scholars, like if you go to Hampi site as a in person, you may not able to get that kind of information which the technologist has created in this digital experiences. Like there is a during that particular time there is a hot there's that bazaar in Hampi. So what kind of dresses and what kind of the things were put in that bazaar. So I think those kind of value additions are possible with this technology, and we need to have a very good collaboration. And I really support this collaboration thing, because it is not a job of one archivist or technocrat, or it's a collaboration of various stakeholders to bring these digital experiences, and also this pandemic, like if you don't have virtual museum, you are away from wonderful museum collections. So how you can enhance those virtual experience? I think there's so many things. I'm sure that we have two very eminent speakers to showcase us, and particularly I'm so delighted to have Mr. Karl Malamud, who is always very supportive of Indian contents and trying his best to put Indian contents under open access. So now I would like to invite Mr. Karl Malamud for his talk. So it's over to you, Karl.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gar, Dr. Joshi. Thank you so much for inviting me. And it's so good to see you both again. I really wish it were in person, however. I hope you and your colleagues and your family are all well. Last year has been very trying in the United States and in India as well. And as you know from my many visits to the Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts, for the last few years, I've been spending a great deal of time in India. In 2019, I did over 100 nights in Indian hotel rooms. And every time I landed in Delhi, one of my first visits is to the Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts. Always a highlight to see the exhibits, the concerts, the bookstore, your library, and especially the people. And that, of course, all changed in March 2020. I was in Delhi, actually, beginning a 30-day trip and inside of India. And 2 days later, I was back on the plane, flying home. And I've barely left my house since then. And I know that's the case with many of you. And while I can't be there, I can tell you that every morning I spend an hour on WhatsApp talking to my friends and colleagues all over India. And so my thoughts are with you, particularly during this difficult time. Professor Mahulikar and Director General Fricker, thank you for your remarks. They were very informative. It's an honor to be on the panel with you. And Mr. Agrawal, I look forward to your remarks as well. I'd like to briefly introduce Public Resource. It's the organization I head. I founded Public Resource in 2007. But my work running nonprofits that put information on the internet goes back almost 40 years at this point. In 1993, I started the Internet Multicasting Service. It was the first radio station on the internet. I invented podcasting. I don't consider it invention, although somebody came along later and got a patent on it, which we were able to beat back. We did a lot of the early live streaming of things on the internet. I put several large government databases online, the US Patent Database and the Securities and Exchange Commission, and then worked with our government to get the government to take that service over and do it themselves. Public Resource, as I said, started in 2007 with the aim of making substantial archives more broadly available. We're a registered public charity. We're supported by grants. We have many volunteers and many joint agreements with institutions throughout the world, such as the Indian Academy of Sciences, for example. We're best known for our work on edicts of government. Edicts of government are the proclamations of government that have the force of law, and legal materials that explain what the law is, acts of parliament, court opinions, government regulations. And you might think that the law has to be available in a democracy, right? Because the citizens own their government, but that has not been the case. And in particular, things like public safety codes have often been sold and have had copyright restrictions. In the US, we've made not only many of our public safety codes, building codes, fire codes available, but also the full compilations of state laws. And believe it or not, we were sued by the state of Georgia for having posted the laws of the state of Georgia. That went all the way to the US Supreme Court, and we won. And the principle that edicts of government belong to the people in a democracy was endorsed by the Supreme Court. We have a similar effort in India. We've posted since 2012 all 19,000 Indian standards. This service is widely used by Indian students, by many government workers throughout India, and many others that want to know what the public safety laws that govern safety of agriculture or the safety of building in typhoon-prone areas or fire safety and exits in hotels. Many millions of views have come in on these collections. And after the Bureau of Indian Standards objected, I instituted public interest litigation with two of my Indian co-petitioners, and that subject is now pending before the Honorable High Court of Delhi. And there's a similar action pending before the European Court of Justice over toy safety regulations in the European Union, and we're expecting a judgment on July 14th from the court. All of these efforts are focused on public safety codes, which are some of the most important laws on our books, right? These are the raw materials of our democracy. Public Resource has done a number of activities. In addition to that, I worked with my good friend, David Ferriero, the Archivist of the United States. We sent volunteers into the US National Archives, copied 6,000 videos, put them on YouTube and the Internet Archive, have had over 18 crore views to that collection. I worked with John Boehner, the Speaker of the US House of Representatives, and we were able to pull 14,000 hours of video of congressional hearings out of the archives and put them in a variety of public places where people could actually use that material. Public Resource is perhaps best known in India for our work on building a public library of India. It's one of the biggest in the world. There are 6.5 lakh books, audio, movies online. It's on the Internet Archive, also in other locations around the world. I posted in the chat a URL that points to the Gia Jaegeon Collection, so you can look at all the different sub-collections. This effort started when I made a copy of something called the Digital Library of India, which was about 5 lakh books that the government had scanned over a course of several years, and they were on a government server, and the server kept going down. So we made a copy of that. We're not the only ones that made a copy. Others have done that as well. And oddly enough, the government server went down and it has not come back up again. So we have this up on the Internet Archive, and that formed the foundation. We then started doing digital mirroring of other resources online, such as the West Bengal Public Library, 23,000 items, the Tamil Virtual Academy. The Minister of Culture has a site that just went up, and we've made a copy of that to preserve it and make it available. Many of the DSpace locations throughout India, the Botanical Survey, the Archaeological Survey. This is a combined archive of many resources. In many cases, our volunteers have gone through and fixed the metadata. So for example, in the Digital Library of India, books in Telugu were described using Roman script. And in fact, the transcription from Telugu to the Roman script was done improperly, so you couldn't find these materials. And we had volunteers go through 20,000 items in Telugu and fix all the metadata, get the titles right, get the creators right. In addition to this digital archiving, we have volunteers, particularly in the south of India. We worked with the Indian Academy of Sciences, which has graciously allowed us to put a scanner in the basement. And we have a group called the Servants of Knowledge, Hatip Gokale, and they have been digitizing materials in Kannada and Telugu and Sanskrit. We have put a scanner in Chennai at the Roja Muthaya Research Library and have been helping them get a very substantial archives of books in Tamil. We have another scanner in Mangaluru at the Konkani World Center, and we have been systematically going through many of those materials. At present, our scanning effort is obviously in suspense because of the lockdowns. And I've asked all of our staff, we have 5 full-time people engaged in this effort in the south of India, to stay home. We've told them that their salary will be paid as long as it takes, and they are not to come back to work until they've been vaccinated. So we are waiting. At some point, we hope things will open up, but for right now, it's more important that our people stay safe. COVID has had a huge impact on everybody I know in Chennai, in Delhi in particular, in Bangalore and Mangaluru. In addition to the scanning efforts, we have a couple specialized collections that I'd like to call your attention to. The Hinswat Raj Collection was kind of my personal passion. Every time I landed in Delhi, I'd go to government bookstores and I'd buy the speeches of presidents and prime ministers. I've worked with a variety of other groups to put, for example, the complete works of Gandhi online, not only the collected works, but another 400 or 500 other works by Gandhi or about him. We have the complete works of Nehru, of Patel. There's a huge amount of material from Radhakrishnan and from Rajaji and from many others. There's an Indian history collection. When the Asian Educational Services abruptly closed their doors, AES was doing reprints of books from the 1700s and 1800s. I went to Blossoms in Bangalore. I went to Delhi. I went to every place I could, and we were able to find 700 of those books and scan them and put them online and preserve them so that they're available to other people. This collection is more than just scans and harvesting. We have done OCR on most of our collection, optical character recognition. And so many or most of these books are searchable inside of the book. So you can go to the Hinswat Raj Collection and you can drop in a quote by Gandhi, for example, and click search inside, and it'll come back with all the volumes that have that quote. And when you click on the volume, it will then open it up to the page that has that quote. And if that quote is in additional pages, you'll see little pin drops. So we're, again, trying to make this collection of books in over 130 different languages more readily accessible to people. I'd like to speak briefly about edicts of government in India. Our work in edicts of government began with the Indian standards, of course. We have since then gone on and added the Indian Roads Congress, for example. Many of these important documents are scans of paper, and we have run them through OCR and converted them to HTML. So that they're viewable as web pages. And then using neural machine translation, we have taken hundreds of these Roads Congress standards and Indian standards, and we are translating them into 11 different Indian languages. Now, the translations are not perfect. They are kind of an out-of-the-box translation, but there are mechanisms in which if people upload a glossary and they say, well, this word in English is really this word in Hindi, not what the neural network decided it was, we can then rerun that translation and make it better. And so we are in the process of enlisting technical people, engineers and others that are familiar with the standards to work with us to help make this translation into Indian languages more effective. And as you probably know, this is a priority for Prime Minister Modi to make materials available in Indian languages. And Dr. Vijay, the principal scientific advisor to the Prime Minister, has also made that one of his priorities. So we were inspired by their efforts to attempt to do that. The other edict of government that we have made available in a different way are the official gazettes of India. There are official gazettes for the union government, for all the states, and for the union territories, and each one was in a separate silo. None of them were searchable. And so working with my colleague, Dr. Sushant Sinha at Indian Kanun, we have mirrored close to 6 lakh files of official gazettes from almost all the states and the union government, as well as historical gazettes going way back to Fort St. George, for example. All of those have been run through optical character recognition, including in the Indian languages. And so it's a searchable archive. And the lawyers in India and government officials and others that have to work with these official newspapers of government have been all over this archive. It's had millions and millions of views. I do want to talk about one subject. So you'll notice that this archive that we've built runs across a large number of organizations, edicts of government, books, books from government agency. We didn't ask for permission to do this. But we didn't hide our actions either. We've been very frank and very upfront with organizations saying we're making an archive. We make an archive for non-commercial purposes. We don't make any money off content and never have. In fact, Public Resource has a policy of not owning intellectual property. So if you want to take our logo, it's not trademarked, you can use it. Same thing with everything else we do. Copyright is something that is often misunderstood. Many people think a copyright means that you own intellectual property, but copyright means that you have a limited right to these materials that you've created, and that right is there for the purpose of disseminating knowledge and making the public domain better. And so even, for example, if you have copyright in a legal treatise, if a teacher wants to use that material in the course of instruction, the Indian Copyrights Act says that's an exception to copyright. Any teacher may do that. That's the Delhi University case, a very famous and beautiful opinion from the High Court of Delhi. There are a number of other such exceptions to copyright, including fair dealing, and many of those rights are founded in the Indian Constitution, where there's a fundamental right to education. There's a fundamental right to opportunity. These are enshrined in the fundamental rights in the preamble to the Indian Constitution. And so our archive is a non-commercial one. It is for the purpose of providing access to knowledge to people in India and throughout the world, to the millions of non-resident Indians who access these materials, to the many government workers, and particularly during this time of COVID when our schools and libraries are closed, making these materials available to the Indian people. So my point is that the building of archives and the preservation of knowledge has to be a global and cooperative enterprise. None of us can control this effort. The preservation of knowledge is, of course, one of our aims, but that cannot be done without embracing the dissemination of knowledge, the access to knowledge. As Dr. Gar so carefully put and eloquently put, if knowledge is only one place in one form, it will disappear. We've learned that with the huge disappearance of archives from Greece and Rome. And it was only when the monks in Ireland and other places started copying these materials that they were preserved. And the same thing has happened in India. It's the dissemination and copying of knowledge that makes our jobs possible. And I believe that universal access to knowledge is really one of the great promises of our time, and we can help make that promise real. So I will end my comments with that. Jai Hind, Jaegeon, and thank you again so much for the invitation to be with you today.
Thank you, Carl, for reminding us about many important initiatives. And I know personally that you have been contributing great in the conversion of important collections in digital form, and also making it accessible under open access, free. Your initiatives and efforts are remarkable, and I really acknowledge it and thank you for your wonderful works you have been doing since many years in India. And I look forward to your continued partnership and collaboration. Although after our discussion, we have not moved far, but definitely we again discuss that and look forward to more collaboration and partnership with you. And I'm so happy that you pointed out many of your initiatives, which are not very much known to the people, even in India. And now Neil is here, and he will also be happy to note it down, all these important collections. And this can be very valuable for various research community and scholars, and also many other people. And as you mentioned about Digital Library of India and other initiative, yes, there are a lot of bottlenecks which you come. I think you did it very smartly. I think we are still waiting for that issue to be resolved, but because, thanks to you, because of you, many things are still accessible from Internet Archive. So thank you very much, and thanks for your kind presence. Although having so early time, and your presence is really very encouraging to us in this important day, International Archives Day. Thank you. So now we'll move to our next speaker, Mr. Neil Agrawal, who heard a lot about you, Neil, but first time we are meeting virtually, and a lot of appreciation about your work, and also I think once the South Asian archive has become part of JSTOR, I have some idea, but not very much details, and even many of the people in India may not be knowing about, and that's why your talk is very important to know how it can be helpful to various scholars in India. The number of uh, studies going on in South Asia, study programs, and also different initiative. So thank you very much for joining, and now we look forward to hearing you. Over to you, Neil.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. I hope you all can see this, my presentation today.
Yes, Neil,
Great.
go ahead.
Thank you. It's such an honor and pleasure to be here today to speak with you. My name is Neil Agrawal. Greetings from Los Angeles, California. I want to wish you all a happy International Archives Day. I want to also give a special thanks to the Government of India, Ministry of Culture, as well as the Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts for hosting this event. So today, I want to speak about the South Asia Open Archives. I'm really grateful to be here today to speak amongst such a great group of speakers and to present to you all today on South Asia Open Archives, also called SAOA, S-A-O-A. SAOA is a project that I've been involved with and managing over the past 5 years. And it's really grown immensely over that period. And it was created about 5 or 6 years ago. So in that, since I've been involved, we've really established the project, and it has become a great resource for the study of South Asian history. SAOA is headquartered at the Center for Research Libraries, also called CRL, which is a consortium of libraries based in Chicago. CRL has a long-standing commitment to collecting international materials since its founding in the late 1940s, and particularly has focused on collecting South Asian materials since the late 1960s, since 1967, when the South Asia Materials Project was founded. That's called SAMP, S-A-M-P. And so SAOA is really an extension of CRL's commitment to collecting South Asian materials. And of course, now really making those materials openly accessible. So for today, I'd like to really focus primarily on locating SAOA content. This may be a new resource for you, so I want to focus on different ways for you to access SAOA's openly available content. So we'll be looking at ways to browse the collections, as well as search the collections. And then I'd like to focus also on federated discovery, which is something that we're really excited about. This is a way for SAOA to link to collections hosted by our partner and member institutions. Then I'd like to spend a little bit of time speaking about SAOA and giving some background information, as well as some details about SAOA's unique governance structure, and SAWA's membership. SAWA is a collective of libraries, of 26 libraries, and it's really those libraries that empower SAWA's collection development and long-term sustainability. And then finally, I'd like to say a few words about outreach, because I think it's so important for us to continue to build our reputation and to make connections in the field. So let's start off by taking a look at SAWA's landing page. This is the entry point into SAWA's collections, and it's available at saoa.crl.edu. So that's sawa.crl.edu. If you go to that URL, it'll take you to the SAWA landing page. And right away, you can see in the upper left-hand corner that SAWA's collections are hosted by JSTOR, which has such a great reputation in the field. SAWA is part of JSTOR's Community Collections Initiative, which is an open access initiative undertaken by JSTOR over the past few years. SAWA was the first collection in JSTOR's Community Collections Initiative. And so SAWA was really the prototype collection, which allowed JSTOR to continue to build its community collections. And now there are over 200 community collections across a variety of institutions. You'll also see on this homepage that you can search for SAWA materials in the search bar here, which I'll show you in a moment, as well as search for SAWA materials in the general JSTOR search. Some of you may be familiar with JSTOR through your work, and so SAWA materials show up alongside other JSTOR materials. Please note that the SAWA materials are open access, but if you find other JSTOR materials, they may be through subscription. So if you only want to search for SAWA's materials for SAWA's open access materials, you would search in the SAWA search bar here in the middle of the page. SAWA has nearly 26,000 items in its collection, comprising about 800,000 pages of content. This is really significant to us because we are a fairly new project. We launched in 2019, but over the past 5 years, SAWA has digitized over 1 million pages of content. And you can see here that almost 800,000 images have been uploaded to SAWA's collections. SAWA also has a preservation mandate where SAWA preserves the master TIFF files for long-term storage as well. In SAWA's collections, you'll find books, journals, and newspapers spanning a variety of languages. SAWA is really committed to diversifying its collections, not only in the past, but in the coming years here. So diversifying the geographical coverage, the language coverage, and the thematic coverage. Some of the contents that I'd like to highlight include newspapers and press digests. So for example, the vernacular press digests or native newspaper reports. SAWA also has a large collection of census data. The census reports span from the 1870s through the 1950s, and that is covered, across South Asia. SAWA also has a fairly significant collection of women's magazines and journals and periodicals. This is one of our focus areas for our collections, as well as governmental reports and documents on administration, trade and navigation, and law. One such example is the Bombay Presidency reports. And of course, SAWA has a language and literature collection containing poetry and criticism. I'd like to just speak briefly about about SAWA's platform and interface before showing you some of SAWA's materials. So as I had mentioned, SAWA is hosted, SAWA's content is hosted on JSTOR's robust platform. And that allows for searching on full text and metadata, as well as filtering search results by various facets. SAWA also has a IIIF compliant image viewer, as well as the ability to link to collections hosted by partners. Again, we call that Federated Discovery, and I'll show you an example in a few minutes here. All of the content that is hosted on SAWA's site is downloadable, and SAWA offers citation management tools and the ability to share materials by email and social media. Okay, so let's get into the collections here a little bit. So one way to access SAWA's open access content is to browse the collections. Users can explore SAWA's collections by language, as well as by thematic content area. As you can see here, there are over 20 languages represented throughout SAWA's SAWA's collections. Most commonly Bengali, English, Tamil, and Hindi. But SAWA will continue to diversify its language offerings over the coming years. Users can also explore SAWA's materials through its thematic collections. SAWA is a highly curated collection, and we have a working group that selects and prioritizes SAWA content. SAWA's largest collection currently is in social, political, and economic history, which comprises over 20,000 items. And then there are growing collections in women and gender, language and literature, history of science, caste and social structure, and art history and music. So our goal over the coming years is to expand on these collections and diversify them. So let's actually take a look at one way to browse the collection, which is by language. So let's say you're interested in finding Tamil language materials. So you could click on Tamil here, and there are over 1,000 items, Tamil items in SAWA's collections. So you could scroll through these items, and please note here that you could also refine your results here by content type, by publication date, and by sub-collection. So you'll find a lot of different types of materials in Tamil throughout SAWA's collections. One item that I'd like to highlight is this women's magazine, this Tamil women's magazine from the early 1900s. You can see that the metadata is available on the left side of the screen, and all of SAWA's content is cataloged at the item level. So in this case, each issue in SAWA's collection is cataloged. Users can also download PDFs of SAWA content. You can save the content, and you can share it as well. The image viewer offers the ability to zoom in and zoom out, as well as to have a full screen view of the content. Next, I'd like to show you another way to browse and locate SAWA content through browsing by collection. So one collection that SAWA has is the language and literature collection. So on the homepage, if you scroll down, you can click on language and literature, and then one feature of SAWA's interface is the ability to search within collections. So let's say you're interested in finding Marathi poetry. So you could go into the language and literature collection, and then you can do a search for poetry. Then you can even limit the results by language. So if you're looking for Marathi, then you can click on Marathi, And here is an example of an item. This is called Indra. This is provided by Emory University, which is one of SAWA's member institutions. This item is from the late 1800s. So those are ways to browse SAWA's collections. Now I'd like to speak about searching SAWA's collections, searching for content. So there's different use cases, of course. You may have an unknown title, or you may have a known title. So I'll show you an example of each. So let's start with an unknown title. Let's say you're interested in finding census reports or census data from the northeastern state of Assam. So in the SAWA search box, again, note that there's the JSTOR search box and there's the SAWA search box. In the SAWA search box, you could do a search for census reports Assam. By doing a search, it gives you a drop-down menu here where you can search on different fields or facets, like author, title, and description. But for this particular search, I just would like to do a very general search. So I'm using this just search for option, and then I press enter, and it gives me a variety of results that provide information on census data for Assam. You'll see here there's the census reports from 1921, 1931, and then from 1951 from Assam, Manipur, and Tripura. Now let's take a look at searching for a known title. So let's say you are interested in finding the Bengali Revolutionary journal, Yuganthar, the periodical. So you could do a search for Yuganthar, that's Jugantar. And by doing that, it gives you the option of doing a title search, the TI colon. So we're just going to do a search for Yuganthar in the title field. So by doing that, it gives you a lot of results here. And I filtered my results by language to the Bengali materials. And so you can see that there are over 13,000 issues of Yuganthar in SAWA's collections. Yuganthar was sourced by another one of our members, the Center for the Study of Social Sciences, Calcutta, and that's one of our founding members. Now I'd like to briefly speak about Federated Discovery, which I mentioned earlier. SAWA is really excited about the opportunity to link out to collections. So not only digitizing material and hosting it on SAWA's platform, but also linking out to collections hosted elsewhere and increasing access to publicly available materials. So one such collection is called Dissidents and Activists in Sri Lanka, 1960s to 1990s. Although there are some materials from the 2000s in this collection. This is a recent collaborative project between the American Institute for Sri Lankan Studies, AISLS, as well as SAWA and Princeton University, who hosts the materials, and University of Edinburgh. So this was an opportunity to digitize and bring together a collection of leftist pamphlets from leftist groups in the late 1900s in Sri Lanka. And those were digitized in Sri Lanka through the American Institute for Sri Lankan Studies. And Princeton hosts these materials, and SAWA has ingested the metadata for these materials. So all of the metadata is searchable through SAWA's interface, and SAWA links out to those items at Princeton. So you could scroll through these items and find the metadata. And then if you click on one of the items, it gives you a record. So this is the record for an item called The Plantations of Sri Lanka from 2000. On the left side here, you'll see there's the metadata. And if you scroll down, you'd find the full metadata. But the important thing to note here is that you access the materials through clicking on this link here in the middle of the page, which links out to the item hosted by Princeton. Excuse me. So here's the item where it lives at Princeton. So this is an opportunity for SAWA to be able to engage with its members and partner institutions in different ways through digitizing content and through pointing out to content hosted elsewhere. Okay, so I've showed you some different ways to access SAWA's collections, but now I'd like to give you a little bit of background information on SAWA. So there's information available about SAWA on the CRL webpage, and I've provided the link here at the bottom of the screen. This webpage gives a description of SAWA, an overall description. And on the left side here, you'll see that there's information on how to become a member of SAWA. We also list our members, and we acknowledge our partners. And then there's information on SAWA's governance, which is the executive board and working groups. I'd like to also point to the proposal section to say that some important documentation is in the proposal section, particularly SAWA's digitization specifications is located there, and it's freely available to use. SAWA's annual report and other important documentation is also available here on this page. Okay, so I'd like to also speak a little bit about SAWA's community, because this is a collective of libraries who really empower this initiative. So SAWA currently has 26 member institutions based throughout the United States and South Asia. We have we have members in India, Pakistan, Nepal, and partners throughout South Asia. We have 26 member institutions. In our first 5 years, we had the same amount of institutions. And so recently we were able to seek renewal from all of our institutions. And really that speaks to the importance of SAWA, particularly during the pandemic. SAWA also is actively recruiting new members. So I invite you to reach out to me if you're interested in your institution joining SAWA, or any colleagues that you may know. SAWA has an inclusive membership model, and it's got a tiered membership model. There's 3 categories, and we really want to attract a variety of institutions. And we know that that institutions come to SAWA with different types of resources. There's financial contributions, as well as in-kind contributions. By in-kind contributions, we mean that members can contribute digital content, as well as staff time, for example, for cataloging SAWA content. So I really encourage you to reach out to us to explore SAWA membership. But SAWA also has a variety of partners throughout the world. The South Asia centers at the various law schools in the US are contributors to SAWA. There's also libraries throughout the world who have contributed to SAWA. One example is Heidelberg University. SAWA has made the Naval Kishore Press collection available that's hosted at Heidelberg University, as well as some Bengali women's journals, and we'll continue to make more content available through Heidelberg University. SAWA also collaborates with KORC institutions, such as the American Institute for Sri Lankan Studies, which I mentioned earlier regarding the Dissents Archive. But American Institute for Sri Lankan Studies has also provided other content for SAWA, like newspapers and monographs that are ingested into SAWA's collections. SAWA also has a unique governance structure. It's governed by an executive board, which consists of 3 elected members and 2 ex officio members. The executive board sets the priorities for SAWA and delegates responsibilities to the working groups to carry out SAWA activities. There are currently 3 working groups. there's the content curation working group, which identifies, selects, and prioritizes content for including in SAWA's collections. There's the infrastructure working group, which really works on some of the back-end issues, technology issues that SAWA faces, as well as issues relating to metadata and digitization specifications. And then there's the funding working group, which is focused on the long-term sustainability of SAWA. The funding working group is divided into two subgroups. One is on membership, which deals with recruitment and retention of SAWA members, and then the grant subgroup, which applies for grant funding. SAWA is also governed by its 5-year plan. As I had mentioned, we're now in the second 5 years of SAWA's existence, and this is FY21 through 25. And that 5-year plan is available on the SAWA CRL webpage. That 5-year plan lays out SAWA's vision for the coming 5 years to diversify its collections and to improve its technology. So finally, I'd like to speak a little bit about outreach, because I think that's a really important aspect to what we all do. I'd encourage you to include SAWA in your research guides and A to Z lists. A number of libraries have done so already throughout the world. One example is the University of Pennsylvania libraries, which included a brief description of SAWA in its research guide. So please feel free to contact me if you have any questions about this, but we would really appreciate the opportunity to include information about SAWA in your research guides and A to Z lists so that your users and colleagues can have another way of accessing SAWA's critical collections. And then I'd also encourage you to please follow SAWA on Facebook and Instagram. SAWA is developing its networks, and so it's really crucial that we develop our social media following. So I'll post links to SAWA's social media in the chat here after my presentation. But you can see that we like to highlight some of the new content in our collections here. So one item here is the 100 best views of Ceylon. This was provided by one of our member institutions, University of Virginia. And then there's a newspaper called the Morning Star. This is a bilingual Tamil English newspaper that was provided by the Jaffna Diocese of the Church of South India. I also want to say that you're highly encouraged to suggest titles for SAWA to digitize. We welcome your suggestions, and I'll post a link to our Google suggestion form in the chat here in just a moment. So we would love to hear your suggestions for items for us to digitize and make publicly available. So with that, I'd like to thank you. It's been such an honor to be a part of this event today and to give you a little bit more information on SAWA. So I hope you found this informative, and please feel free to contact me by email at nagrawal@crl.edu. Thank you all.
Thank you, Neil, for such an informative and wonderful presentation. I'm sure everybody now know what is SAWA and useful information contained in it, how to access it. And really, it's wonderful to know. Even we have many other repositories, but this is going to be a very valuable source, and I'm sure every library would like to add in their list of resources. So thank you very much, and I'm also looking forward to my discussion with you to explore the possibility of collaboration between IGNCA, DIPA, and we have some initial discussion, and soon we'll fix up a timing and we'll discuss how SAWA and IGNCA can and our member secretary must have seen all your details, and he'll be very happy to give us a chance to explore more collaborative partnership between South Asia Open Archives and IGNCA. So thank you very much for your wonderful presentation.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And after all the presentations, we have with our executive head, member secretary of Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts, who is a great supporter of all such initiative, and under his dynamic leadership, IGNCA is achieving many milestones, and he is the one who encourage us to take up all such initiative. So now I would like to request him to give his concluding remarks in this program. Sir, over to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, and I think good morning to David and Carl. I think it's morning for them, if I'm not wrong, and all the participants. I'm really sorry. I'm struggling to get a good network connection and electricity connection. So to add my misery after the network, actually electricity has also gone from bad to worst, and I'm trying to catch up in the sunlight so that at least you can see my face, which was, I mean, for almost all the time I kept it my video off. Anyway, most respected Dr. Gauri Mahulkar, who is the ex-vice chancellor and right now the dean of this Chinmay Vidyapeeth, Dr. David Fricker, who is the Director General of National Archives Australia, Dr. Carl Murmud, who is a very good friend, and we have met earlier also. It is very nice to see him again on this panel. And Mr. Neil Agrawal, who has given a very nice presentation on SOA, and it was really an enlightening session. As I must congratulate my colleagues, ably led by Professor Dr. Ramesh Gaur, that we could bring out 5 volumes. They are volumes on this descriptive catalog, which is a very important step towards actually liberalizing the cultural archives and giving access to all these scholars throughout the world, throughout the globe. In fact, this is an important movement, and on this important day, which is an important auspicious occasion, I must say, to liberalize the cultural wealth and cultural archives document to the entire world. That is the endeavor of all of us, which we are trying very hard to do this. But let me also submit here that people in general are not much aware about the importance of having an archive in their own town or in their own vicinity. That's an unfortunate part, especially in India. I don't know how our education system has evolved and developed, that we miss the importance of developing very good museums, leave aside archives. Actually, there would be very few who would really be in a position to tell you the difference between museum and an archive. So when I ask someone that what is the difference between a museum and an archive and a repository, more than 75% people gave a blank look and then they said all these things are the same. And if you ask somebody how much time it has been that you have ever visited a museum or an archive, I mean they would be more interested in visiting the shopping malls and cinema theaters and even restaurants and parks. We have all witnessed during the lockdown, everybody was worried about when the malls are going to open, when the cinema theaters are going to open, when the restaurants are going to open. But I think there were very few, you can only count them on fingers, who were worried about when archives are going to be open or when museums are going to be open, or even for that matter, Professor Ramesh Gaur would kindly excuse me, but there were very few who would ask when the libraries are going to open. So you know this is an atmosphere where we have created this kind of a mentality or psychology where people are not really understanding the importance of preserving our own heritage, our rich cultural heritage. It may be India, it may be United Kingdom, it may be USA, it may be Australia. I think things are more or less same, and it is a matter of great worry to make aware the next generation and the scholars who are working in this field about our heritage, which we possess, which we have in our archives, which we have in our museums. As you know, IGNCA is working hard in this direction. We have our own cultural archive where we have remarkable collections. These collections, either they are acquired collections or we have also received some collections in gifts and donations, that we have a huge cultural archive at IGNCA. Other than that, we also have a remarkable collection of manuscripts under the Kalanidhi division and National Manuscripts Mission, which we are trying our level best to improve upon as far as the technology and outreach is concerned. Other than this, IGNCA also has a very fantastic reference library fully devoted to art, culture, and heritage. I think it is one of the biggest libraries in India. We have remarkable collection. Plus, we also have some acquired collection from eminent personalities, prominent persons, scholars, stalwarts. And that is why the purpose of organizing this 5-day program to create awareness about our archives, create awareness about the archival studies, create awareness about the things which really take us forward to study our heritage is very important. Our endeavor has been to attract more and more younger generation, young scholars, bright scholars, to come and study these aspects. I was just watching the presentation by Mr. Neil Agrawal, and I was actually astonished the kind of things which they have tried to develop. But another cause of worry is that, are we really extending all these things to our younger generations? Most often I try to say that why can't the best of the best scholars take these professions as their first priority? I think that we are all looking for a day when the best of the best students opt to become a very good archivist, or to become a very good conservationist, or to become a very good manuscriptologist. I think those are the days which we are looking forward to. And for that, courses like this or events like this would definitely enhance and definitely attract people to come in this. I would also like to say that the most of the digitization which has taken place, and not only digitization, the Googleization of this world has done one big damage to our knowledge society, and that is that most of us are now depending upon the secondary sources without getting anything authenticated. In fact, Dr. Gauri Mahulikar, who has been in the academic field for substantial period, would also agree with me that most of the research being done, especially in the field of social science and literature and other things, are based on secondary sources, and unfortunately, no scholars are trying to even approach towards the primary sources of knowledge. That is also creating a kind of a drawback and a kind of an obstruction in getting the real essence of the knowledge coming nearer to the real source of the knowledge. We as an academician, we as practitioners to this field also should strive to attract more and more youngsters to come and to study with the primary sources which are available in ample. I don't know how many youngsters really go and visit archives, and how many youngsters go and really try to understand the basic nuances of archiving. How much pain does a person take in preserving all those important documents? Only this afternoon, I as a routine visit to my different sections, I went to our conservation lab, and I was just trying to see how my colleagues are trying their level best to preserve a document which is 180 years old, and trying to sort of just conserve it so that people after, say, another 20, 50, 30 years would be in a position to read that. But is enough sensitivity is generated among the youngsters is a cause of worry. So not only that, we also become professionally competent and make our things more and more technologically advanced, but also we have to sort of because I as as a more of a creative person, my lookout is totally emotional, and I always try to look at the emotional aspect of everything. Technology can bring you everything nearer to you. You can bring water nearer to a person, but you cannot compel the person to drink it. The person has to make effort to drink it. So I mean, that kind of an emotional ethos has to be generated among the youngsters, especially people who are thirsty of knowledge, and that thirst has to be created. And how that thirst would be created, I think that all the professionals like you, eminent professionals like you, would definitely be thinking of. IGNCA is trying to do whatever is possible within its limited resources. In last couple of years, maybe to be more precise, in last 4 years, we have started 9 postgraduate diploma programs especially devoted to these specialized fields, because we realize that we are not getting bright youngsters to come and do the job professionally in these fields. So may it be a digital archiving, may it be a technologically advanced cultural informatics system, may it be conservation, digital library management system. All these things we have started postgraduate diploma programs, and they were very well received. And to our surprise, not only youngsters, but professionals who were already working in this field also came and joined these courses. So that kind of efforts are needed, more and more efforts are needed. I'm very happy that that erudite scholars like you have joined hands with Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts. And I'm confident that we all together can really create a momentum where people by and large, and scholars in particular, understand the importance of archiving in years to come. I must thank and congratulate Dr. Gaur for organizing this webinar, and I'm really overwhelmed to see the kind of panel and the level of discussion which took place. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful, inspiring address. As usual, you are always motivating, and that's the reason IGNC is going and achieving a lot of milestone under your leadership. So now coming to the end of the program, let me thanks everybody. First, I would like to express my sincere thanks, or I would like to congratulate our team of Kalanidhi Division for coming out with these volumes and launching, getting it done ready for launch today. Dr. Kirtikan Sharma, who is our scholar and looking after the editing along with me. We have with us Dr. Devraj Gupta, we have with us Dr. B.S. Rana. So all these team and many other people are working. So thank you guys, and keep it up. And another 9 volumes will be launching soon. I would like to express my sincere thanks to our chief guest of today's program, Professor Gauri Malika, for wonderful address and gracing the occasion. You really made our program so useful and important. I'm so thankful to David. David, your so inspiring address. I'm sure because thousands of people are connected right now with this program on Zoom and Facebook Live, and everybody must have gone. So the various messages you have given to the entire community and the policymakers and the planning, and I'm so grateful. It's late in the evening in the Australia, and traveling you in the late evening after office hours. So I'm thank you very much for you. And Carl, as usual, you were fantastic, and you are I consider you India as your second home, because I see your lot of commitment and devotion toward putting Indian contents online. And I think this is a wonderful talk you have given, and many things were known to me, but there are many things which new you have told me, and I look forward to meeting you again very soon. Once things are okay, let's come back to India and discuss, start the discussion from where we have left earlier. Now we are at the new location in the new building with a new fresh look. So you will have some, under our leadership of our member secretary, we may have some new partnership. And of course, Neil, thank you very much for introducing such valuable resources to all of us. And I'm very excited to discuss in our online meeting about our partnership. And I look forward to further working with you and Deepa and other colleagues in the South Asian institutes and libraries in US. So with this, once again, I thank Dr. Jasbir Singh for technical support and all other team, our publication department for all flyers and everything. And with this, I thank you all and look forward to meeting you again in some other programs or at IGNCA. Thank you very much. With this now, we'd like to close the program. And bye-bye, good night.
Professor Gaur,
Yes.
just
Yeah.
there is some query from I think Chetana Khera. So you just tell her that she can contact you later on, and then maybe we can address to her query. She wants to do something in manuscripts, so it is a good thing, and we would encourage youngsters like Chetana. Okay, thank you.
So I think whatever queries and questions you have put, we have saved it in our chat box, and I will be responding it to you individually through email. And also you can contact us on my Gmail ID, email ID god@igncA.nic.in. There are certain queries regarding certificates. You all will be getting e-certificates by email based on your registration to the Zoom program. There was one query, I think you sir reminded me, there was one specific query to David regarding there's somebody said that there is just I read out that some important archive has been closed in some US, UK or somewhere. So the person has asked something.
I think that was the Association of Commonwealth Archives.
Yeah. So yeah. So do you have any response to it?
Well, it's yes, it was a very briefly, because I know you want to finish up. It has wound up, but it was just a group within the ICA, not just a group, an important group of Commonwealth nations and archives within Commonwealth nations. So the people haven't disappeared. We're still all part of the ICA family. Australia was a member, of course, as a Commonwealth country. So no, the activities and the energy hasn't disappeared. It's just that particular cluster within ICA got to the end of its useful life, and we've all joined other forums and groups. But I'd be happy to get in touch with that query and provide some more explanation.
Thank you, David. So now you can send your rest of the queries. And there is another important information. Tomorrow we have a program where the program will start at 3 o'clock, and please join using the same link. There is only one link for all 5 days. And tomorrow we are showcasing the various initiative undertaken by IGNCA, various kind of repository created or collections available, digitization done, or various kind of other activities of IGNCA. So you all are welcome to join tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And with this, I thanks all the participants on Zoom or Facebook Live, and look forward to meeting you tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Namaskar. Bye-bye. Just now we can close the program.
Okay, sir. Thank you.